Welcome to May 5th. I am equally happy to be here today and a bit tired from yesterday. There is so much happening, so much shifting, so much going on that I am ecstatic to be here doing this because I too want the information. I want validation. I want the bigger, greater truth that's kind of rolling in with this energy as the 5/5 of 2019 hits us. And so I am eagerly awaiting the messages as hopefully you are as well, looking for that validation of our path and what's coming in. So just a little bit of information about what's going on upcoming. We've got membership site changing. We're actually upgrading, updating, activating this to a really phenomenal, expansive experience. And the membership site is probably not going to be fully ready until August. Those who are already signed in will have all of the benefits they have now, but will get kind of rolled into everything that's to come as well. And so if you haven't tried it, I highly suggest giving the membership site a try. You get very personalized readings each month, and then there's going to be so much more that hits this come August, and I'm just really excited to share that. And there's going to be this kind of quiz. It's a really unique concept, the membership site. Of course, it's a monthly payment, but there's going to be a step process through this where as soon as you reach a certain level and graduate there's 4 different levels to graduate from, and you can do this in a blink of an eye or you can do this in 10 years. It's up to you. But as soon as you kind of graduate through those levels, the membership site becomes completely free to you, and you get rolled into not paying as soon as you hit that kind of 4th level. So trying something really unique, new, and different for those who are on the journey and looking just for the validation and support that all of us do when we're going on a kind of inward, expansive journey like this. And so that's what the membership site has been created for, and that's what it's all about. And then the free Chakra Deck app. This is the best way to get the information that Chakras Root to Crown produces at your fingertips. It's totally free for Android and for Apple devices. iPads it works on as well. It has a really cool 1-card reading that we are also updating. There'll be even deeper dives through that, especially if you're members, but there'll be some deeper information to drill down if you do the 1-card readings. And everybody who does it on that app loves it and says it's always so dead on, whether you're on the journey or not. People who are kind of not diving into this world still get really crazy validating information through doing those 1-card reads. So I suggest that, and help me please. The more downloads we get before August, the better, because there's also bigger, better things that I have opportunities for. And so supporting the app and the downloads, and even rating it or giving your feedback on the Android Google Play Store or Apple iTunes Store would be super helpful, and I would so much appreciate that and send so much gratitude for you for doing that. And then last but not least, June 3rd is our Shasta retreat. And I'm so excited because at the end of May, right around Memorial Day weekend, my sons and I are going to be traveling cross country to get to Shasta. And so we're going to be stopping along the way and having fun. And I know a lot of the facilitators are going to be kind of live casting as they make their trips to Shasta. Mine's going to be much elongated because I think I'm the only one driving. Even Sky, coming from Scotland, will get here quicker than I will with my 2 sons. I think we're going to roller skate across America to get to Shasta from Ohio. So follow along. I believe the social media links that we'll be updating some items on. It's called Project Breaking Free. But again, you can see and look for that on any of the website or links. We'll post kind of where you can find some of the Road to Shasta updates. So let's get right into this month's energy because it is so good. So it's 5/5, which is, of course, I like to align all of these readings to the master numbers in the month. And then, of course, 2019 boils down to this 3-year, and the 3-year being the year of the human. So if you are just kind of diving into this work on yourself, if you're what I call a spiritual baby, then this is really about kind of reclaiming your life. It's about taking a look at who you've been up into this point and kind of doing that deeper soul searching about what you've created and all the material things you've surrounded yourself with, and now looking kind of inward and trying to fill that maybe emptiness or that longing to know more about who you are. If you're what I call a spiritual adolescent, that spiritual 2 or 3-year-old, you're getting kind of triggered a lot by the outside and approach, all the emotional indicators that are happening around you, and here, if you're experiencing this, the 3-year is all about recognizing who you are, what you've created in your reality, and it's really coming to kind of the peak of your journey where you're really being pushed and triggered, and it's like poking the bear. if you're in this adolescent phase of the spiritual awakening, which is very emotional, then this year has all been about I see the Lorax, what is it, the Dr. Seuss, the little people are people too, and they put all the big guys in the cages and they're like poking them with sticks. I feel like this is the year, if you're on the emotional cusp of this enlightenment journey, then this has kind of been your year. It's all about everybody outside of you kind of poking you and prodding you, and it's like, who are you going to be? Spiritual teenager, right, which is the inward journey, the mental journey, is all about, and you can get all of this kind of broken down, the 5 journeys or the 5 enlightenment stages, the 5 initiations. I have a really long video that talks about all of this if you're interested, and so you can find that through the app or the website, or any of the free courses as well have that in there for you to review. But the 5 stages of enlightenment, and how I classify it, is the baby, the adolescent, the teenager, the adult, and then the spiritually enlightened. And so everybody on earth is in one of these 5 phases, and so the teenager is in this mental, or the spiritual teenager is in this mental inward journey and really looking to understand themselves more. And so in this 3-year, if you were on the mental journey, it is this total union of you've done so much soul searching and you are really redefining yourself. I wouldn't be surprised if those who have been on this inward facing journey during 2019 made huge life changes, divorces, marriages, relocations, quitting of jobs, starting of personal businesses, totally redefining the identity of who you were up until this point of 2019 and who you've become in 2019. And so this is all focused on the 2019 year, which breaks down to this 3, which breaks down to the human essence of you and what you're experiencing this year. I'm getting into the 5-5, so just give me a minute. And then the spiritual adults, the 4th initiation or 4th journey. These people have come from a lot of work. They're starting to reconcile a lot of the old paradigms, the old structures, the old things that have been in place that have got them to where they are now. These are kind of the spiritual teachers among us, have messages, like to yell it out loud. And so if you find yourself kind of in the spiritual adult or initiation 4 of this consciousness journey, then this 2019 year has been all about you really looking at what you've been preaching up into this point and making sure that all of those things that you've been preaching are still a part of your highest truth, part of the divine wisdom of who you are and what your soul is here to practice and teach. And that you're really showcasing and powerfully speaking those messages. And so, being that we are at this 5-5, this is why I give you so much background on the 2019, is because this 5-5 energy, I'm going to jump right into the master number. And I don't even know how much I want to give you about myself and my own journey and what's led us to this point of 5-5 this month. But this is all about the magnificent union. The 55 can also be this Christ consciousness number. It is, I always see it as the Merkaba light body. It is the union of as above, so below. So here it is. I'll give you some of my journey. So I actually, just before I sat down to record this, I realized that my journey over the past 3 years, of course, right? Here's that 3 number again. 3 years ago, I was going to Shasta at this exact same time with my mother, and I believe it was 2017, and I was doing this kind of worldwide tour of gridding all over North America, up into Canada, as low as Arizona, and I was being called to understand myself and everything I had created, everything I had experienced. And if you look at the positive aspect of 5 there, it's all about experience and union. And I was called all over the U.S. to do these stone grittings, and it wasn't so much about the stone gritting as it was about me understanding the physical journey I had led up into that point. So almost exactly this time last year, I was called to Shasta as one of these 5 main points around North America that I was supposed to go grid and discover more of my authentic journey. And I did, and I had the most magical experience. And this is the first time that I actually 3-dimensionally saw it's the heart chakra symbol, the Star of David. It's right back here, this green painting, right? It's also the Merkaba, the pyramids, right? Stacked, one upside down and one right side up on top of each other that spin and oscillate. For me, it came through as the Sri Yantra, which was multiple triangles in the upward and downward facing. Let me see, I have one of those. Excuse me, I'm gonna get it, because why talk about it if we're not gonna show it? So this is the Sri Yantra. Very powerful union and integration, and you can see the divine potential of the master number here is this magnificent union. When it appears, be ready to center yourself. The as above, so below, the Merkaba, the Sri Yantra. It's all about all of these things that are rising and falling, or ascending and descending, right? And then there's always a center of vortice point. That center of vortice point represents our soul that remains centered and connected to the authenticity of who we are. And so when this 55 comes about, and remember, this is why I'm here. We're reading all this energy right now for May 5th, for what's going to be transpiring here during the month of May, what we can take advantage of as this soul living the journey, what we can take advantage of during this 5-5-3 transition. And so when it appears, which 55, we're here, make sure to center yourself, because you will be brought encounters of divine will that the human mind can't comprehend. And so what it wants to do is it wants to experience. And so 3 years ago, I had really no clue what I was doing. I was following divine will and guidance, and I just surrendered and went to these 5 different locations all over North America to grid. And at each location, I discovered I can't even put it into words, not lifetimes full of information about myself, but it was like cosmic expansiveness, understanding about who I was, what my divine potential was at each of these different locations. It just kept compounding and expanding greater and greater. And the really unique and interesting thing is the 5-5, which was my Shasta trip. It was all about the 55 energy. It was about surrendering completely to the will and the want of the human heart. And then when I would surrender, something in my human environment would manifest to validate and prove and affirm that I was exactly where I needed to be. And so this is the beauty of the 5-5 energy, is that when we show up as the human, the divine shows up in our environment to validate the human as well. And so when we can stay in that ooey gooey center point of who we are, and we trust completely and kind of surrender that human side that wants to know, or wants the validation, or wants to understand what it's doing before it does it, when we can just do because we feel so intensely to do, the magic and complete mysterious side of this universe shows up and becomes ever present in your environment to validate exactly what you are feeling in your subjective internal world. And so 2 years ago, I was also called to Shasta then to teach. I was there at a big conference exactly in June around this time. And I just put it together that I am going back to Shasta this June again to host a retreat that's pretty phenomenal. And so here's the 3 of the 55 of the Shasta. It's just, I would ask you to look into your life and see what kind of bigger picture patterns have been knocking on your door, because this is where the surrender of the human that needs to know needs to come in and happen, so that you can have the experience of the expansiveness and really tap into that intense potential, the potential that goes so far beyond this one human experience and taps into the divine will of your soul and what you want to create while you're here. So that's why I'm so excited to get into the 55 energy, because if you're ready and if you're willing to surrender, everything's gonna show up and validate you in your environment, which is, you just can't ask for anything greater. And so the monthly reading, how we always perform the monthly reading is through the 77 Windows to the Soul, which is the Chakra Oracle deck. And so there are 77 different access points within our energetic field. When you look at the field, you have, in the human range, you have your physical body, you have your emotional body, and your mental body, and this comprises the human journey. This makes up what you experience, everything you experience as the human. And so the 77 windows, or these 78 Oracle deck cards, basically track each of the chakra points that we can experience, or all of these, I call them the nodal points of our auric field, or of our energetic field, that we can have experiences with as we are living our human life. And so the 77 windows are really this beautiful way to tap into and read the energy of what you're going to experience this month at the 5-5, anchoring into the 55 energy. So for May, what you will be experiencing through each of the physical, emotional, and mental planes. And so this just kind of gives us a roadmap, I guess, to understand what we are being called to review as the month, as we enter kind of this gateway of the 55 energy. And so I have my coffee here. I've been wanting to take a sip. So we have the first root chakra is always how we start the read, and we're going to go root to heart, which is a learning flow. This is basically what we need to understand and know that's coming into our field for the 55, right? For the 55 to happen. And so the root chakra is all the foundation. It's basically our platform. It's the energy that's growing for us. And so here we get this guilt energy. And this is very interesting, because this is the shadow side of the sacral chakra, which means it's a pattern that we've repeated. And again, when I asked you before to kind of look into the bigger picture patterns that have been overlaying you for the past few years, and I'd say specifically maybe right around this time as we enter summer, right? What is it? Do you have a deep longing that as the summer months hit, you always wish you were somewhere else, or you always wish you were doing something else or with somebody else, right? So kind of look into these bigger picture patterns that have been a part of your life over the past few years. But here, as we start to build this foundation and look at the energy of the 55 and what's coming in this May, it's really interesting that we're being called yet again to look into our past, and we're repeating patterns. And this is very much so sacral chakra, which is our relationships, it's our passion. And so because of this magnificent union and the coming together of the self and the divine self to create a validated experience here in your human reality, I would say look at even the relationship with yourself, and where do you constantly allow yourself to almost feel guilty? Or where's that energetic connection for you that anytime you want to do something, either something or somebody outside of you can trigger you back into guilt? And so this is a huge component of the expansiveness of this journey. Have you wanted to take a trip for yourself to explore who you are more fully, and you get triggered into feeling guilty by somebody outside of you, and this could be a way that they continue to hold on to an old energetic pattern with you that pushes you and keeps you kind of locked into an old paradigm or an old version of self that's not expansively growing into the potential it could be. And so very much so, as we walk through this gateway of trying to receive the validation over our path, there are these old patterns that come up where we're being asked, and this has been for 5 months now, this has been the message, is look at your relationships, look at your relationships. And so there is something very connected, very energetic where and for most of us, it's going to be happening as a trigger outside of us. Somebody outside of you is continuing to be able to put you and force you into this feeling of guilt. And guilt as an emotion is always an indication that we have set up a boundary, or there is something energetically outside of us that's preventing us from connecting 100% to our authenticity. And so anytime you feel guilt, and guilt for me was always that twinge, that gut twinge, right? Where it's just like, ooh, it doesn't feel right. And anytime you're feeling that guilty sensation, there's something out of alignment. You are not in center. You are acting out an old role, an old pattern that is not serving your greatest good. And so use guilt as this emotion to help you understand when you are leaving your most authentic path. It is a good thing to feel guilty because it's showing you where you are stepping outside of yourself, where you are repeating that old pattern, where you are letting either somebody outside of you trigger you into the fact that you can be made to feel guilty, or it's your own self-awareness that is catching yourself repeating. Let's just use the most typical, right? Eating dessert at night, and you feel comfortable eating 3 Oreo cookies. This is a personal experience, right? And you just happen to eat that whole sleeve, right? and so or you have told yourself that I'm comfortable eating 3. I'm only going to eat 3. And so then when you eat all 12, then you make yourself feel guilty because there's a dynamic at play that maybe eating all 12 was an old pattern of self that indulged too much and said, I'm here, I'm just gonna do it, screw what I know to be, the truth of me, which is eating 3 would feel good and satisfy me, but 12 today is gonna be okay. And so as soon as you eat 12, you feel massively guilty, and that's because you have stepped outside of center. You knew what felt right, which was 3 Oreo cookies. Can't believe this is where we are today. And so you eat your 3, and then as you overindulge and multiply that by 4 and hit the 12 mark, there's something inside of you that instantly triggers and starts the guilt sensation, which means, hey girl, we have stepped outside of what we knew was going to keep us balanced, and now I'm making you feel guilty so that you are outside of center and you are repeating an old pattern. You knew what was good for you because you've done this before. Why did we do it again? And so we're using these triggers either through the internal self-talk, where your own cognitive awareness can push you into guilt, or a lot of times, and for most people, it's surrendering a part of ourselves to somebody else and their divine will, their power over us, and allowing them to make us feel guilty for the actions and choices and things that we're doing. And so again, in moving into this 5-5 energy, where you are being given such a beautiful opportunity to have in your life right now in this month of May a complete validation of your divine path show up for you in your environment, to hit that, to achieve that, and to understand more about this human that's living this journey. Because again, the 55 energy is all about staying center and then being validated. It's like the angels come down on earth, manifest in front of you. You see them and they go, you're doing it right. Keep going, right? This is the energy of the 55. And so to receive that, we must first stay centered. And so where we're being told that we have a tendency to move outside of center is in this guilt emotion. So look for this guilt emotion to pop up. Be thankful when it does, because it's showing you exactly where you're repeating old patterns, old paradigms that need your focused attention so that you can come back very quickly to center point. Humans are always going to move outside of center. It's how quickly we move back to center that's the magic of the journey. And so here we go. The sacral chakra here, because root chakra came in again, triggering us to the old patterns of our relationships. Sacral chakra is all about the relationships. And so when we pull a denial card here, this indicates that, again, in order to have this like complete validation moment in May of our spiritual path and what we're creating here as this human, to have that, we have to look into these relationships and where we have pulled back. Again, this is, the greater perspective of the situation. So I'm sure explaining the guilt card, everybody got triggered into either the person who is making them feel guilty outside of you, a one-on-one relationship, who's able to push you and make you feel guilty, take away your power, make you feel like your decisions and choices aren't aligned. They're able to take your authentic power away, right? And so I'm sure everybody was able to kind of identify a place there where you are repeating some old paradigm, old patterns. So as we step up here to this sacral chakra, what we're being told is that there's a tendency to have the mental awareness, have the greater perspective over the situation, especially when you're feeling guilty, when you're triggered into the guilt. There's an ability to be very perceptive over what's happening and have all the correct information in your own internal subjective mental alertness. Yet there is this tendency to then pull back and dim your light and go into a denial, because the power outside of you is so strong and constantly tells you otherwise, and you surrender your power over to that person. And so this is a very typical pattern that happens, and it's very much so sacral chakra, where if you have imbalanced relationships where you are learning the lessons of your divinity and that the I am that I am, which is I am as powerful as anything out there, right? So this is a huge human trait that we all have to learn and go through and have experiences with. And so there is, we call it a prostitute archetype. You can call it the subservient type of an archetype, where you are somebody who there is going to be somebody outside of you that shows you where you are willing to give away your energy. And this is a very, very human trait that we all have to have multiple encounters with these people until we finally learn that I am the truth of me, I know what's best for me, and I'm not going to surrender my power to anybody. And so usually the pattern that happens is somebody's going to manipulate you, take your energy. Again, in our root chakra, we got the guilt, which guilt as a trigger is usually people know how to manipulate you into certain ways to take your energy. Then they can make you feel guilty about if you try and resist giving your energy away, they'll make you feel guilty, which is again surrendering part of your energy to that person. And then here, as we step it up, when you start to claim your space and speak your truth, and you see the bigger picture of what's happening, and you see how you keep giving your energy away, what they'll do is then they'll make you think you're crazy. And so because you have this greater perspective and you're honoring that, and sometimes we speak it or sometimes we act out on it, then they start to make you question your own subjective internal thought process. And so they'll make you start denying what you know to be truth in the greater perspective of how this person continues to manipulate and take and make you less than the person you are, which is you not being able to hold your center point, your divinity, because you're constantly being triggered into these shifts where you basically move outside of yourself and allow somebody else to dictate who you are, what you are, and how you're going to act. And so this is a very strong I guess, pattern that's coming up for your review. So look at number one, in your feeling body, how you're being triggered to feel certain things by the outside relationships. And then what happens as we move up the scale here is now then how do you think about it, and how have you now distrusted your internal thought process so much because you have repeated this pattern so many times with this person. And so it's just cluing us into where we are really losing center here. And the goal of the 5-5 month, I'm just going to keep saying it, is to have this magnificent union where all of your power comes back into your center. Your highest wisdom, your divinity, is connected to this human path, this human purpose. And when those two things come together, it is like the holy grail moment where you are validated being you on this path. So the authentic self, the solar plexus chakra, as we move up into solar plexus. Now what we're being told is, this is my alien Moses energy. So this is all about having a bigger message to speak, but we're not yet ready to speak it. We're all about acting it out. And if you remember back to the 5 energy, the 5 energy is all about experience. And this is my favorite part of the journey, is I kind of gave up needing to know anything greater than what I'm experiencing. I learned that if we try and know and cognitively precog or try and understand what's happening to us too much, we get lost in those details and we miss the next stepping stone that keeps presenting itself to keep us moving forward and feeling connected on our path. And so this energy here about the solar plexus chakra and what's going on with you authentically right now, it's all about the experience. It's about walking the path. And when you walk the path, you basically connect to those that are here to support you on this path. And so I'd have to think, because of the intense energy that's kind of triggered with this domineering kind of energy where you're still being triggered to give your energy away or be taken out of your authentic center, this card here tells us that what your goal, or what the goal for you is, it's all about just walking the path. And when you walk the path, you will naturally collect the support of those people outside of you that you need the support from to know that you've been making the right decision. And so when we claim our authentic truth, we walk the path, we live the experience in full trust, that as long as I take the next step, what is it? A leap of faith never fails. So as long as I'm taking that next step on the path, that I will get that validation. And here, what we're being told in human form is that we're not only gonna, because the 5-5 energy is about this like divine validation. It's like the lightning bolt that comes down right in front of you, and it's like, you know, everything is clear and you just get validation for your entire existence up until this point. That's what's happening this month if you can just claim your authenticity and stay centered. And here, right before we hit heart chakra, the human, which is really cool because this is the step right before we get that lightning strike or the angels manifested in front of us telling us everything we're doing is perfect. So this is the step right before. This is the human step we have to take. And the human step is telling you to just walk your path. And when you walk your path, you will get, before you get the divine lightning bolt strike that validates you, you will get these humans that start to validate you. And so, and that, I've goosebumps because that's almost more powerful to me than like an angel manifesting and telling me that I'm doing everything right. And so the human validation will come in as the preemptive kind of energy before you really expand into that 55, or that master number 55 energy of magnificent union, where everything you are gets validated. And so as we move into heart chakra, this is our final card here. As we kind of get to this learning flow and we expand, we've gone through the human journey and we get into heart chakra, the energy that comes in, and this is interesting, this is an angel card. We've been talking about these angels coming in to validate us this whole time. Here they are. And so this is manifesting for us. The heart chakra is the bridge. It's the gateway. It's what gets us from all that crap that we've had to go through at the beginning of this reading, right? Again, healing these relationships, trusting in our intuitive guidance, and then walking the path in full trust that if I just walk this path, I know that I'll have the network and support I need no matter what. That if we do all those human things, that what's going to happen and what's going to expand us into that 5-5 validating energy that we're so desperately seeking. And I want to say, because every human desperately seeks validation, is that the heart chakra reminds us that we're manifesting this energy. This is Archangel Gabriel. I'm going to take a minute there because I know one person's listening. I know that's going to be super powerful for them. Archangel Gabriel comes in to let us know that we are the creator of our own reality. And sometimes we forget that. Let me do microcosm, macrocosm here and just kind of show you how this path of the human also connects to what we expect in our divine path. And so walking the path of the human, there are instances where we encounter really domineering energies and manipulative energies from other humans, right? These relationships that we accumulate along the way. And there's times when we surrender our power to somebody outside of us. And this is a very human trait. And even when we think we have claimed it completely and we are so set on the truth of who we are and what we're projecting to this world, there are still times where there's somebody who comes in who appears smarter, richer, more knowing than you, and you will go into that old pattern again where you're like, is my information, I do this all the time, is my information really true? Is what I have good compared to this person? Why don't I just let them do it, because they seem to do it so much better than me? And so there's so many times where we'll get re-triggered into these patterns of giving our power away to something that seems smarter, better, stronger, whatever, you name it. And so that's the microcosm. What we need to understand also is that as you start to claim that completely for yourself as the human, then you have this whole divine category that you're dealing with. And now we're talking the human and God source, right? Or the human and the angel, or the human and the guides that you connect to in meditation. Are you willing to give your power away there, right? So the human journey is just a mirror reflection of what we go through in the divine journey as well. And so this heart chakra card is all about manifesting the energy that tells us that we are creating our reality. If you can learn to claim your power and your truth and your authenticity and stay centered as the human, when it comes to connecting on such more of an expansive level with all cosmic awareness, you will not lose that power. You will not surrender your power. You will know the truth of you, and you will know what's resonant for you. And so you will not leak your power out anywhere, because it's a lot harder when you're doing it with the unseen world than it is when you're doing it human to human. And so this is where I leave you. This is the divinity of May that is coming through. You can create this reality. It's not you can, you are creating this reality. And so for 5-5, wouldn't you love to step through this unbelievable gateway, discovering more of the 2019, which is the human essence of you, of what your divinity is, of what your soul purpose is? Wouldn't you love to step through this and get that physical world validation? And I tell you, you will get that physical world validation if you completely surrender kind of to the truth of the path and the experience you're living, and stay centered and trust that everything that's going on in your internal world, everything you feel, everything you know is the truth of you. And if you can walk that path, that experience of what you know to be true, if you can take every step every day towards that path of the truth of you, that everything outside of you will start validating that. You will accumulate not only the people in the human reality that are going to be these compassionate collective of people that are showing up to support and help you, but this also comes through in that divine lightning bolt moment energy, where when you make that choice, when you start living that authentic reality, everything starts to reflect the authenticity of you, and divine validation will come in this month. Like, I can't even express this enough. The 55 to me is one of the most powerful energies. It's about, if you walk your walk and talk your talk, you will have the angel appear to you with the Holy Grail in hand. I don't know why I keep saying Holy Grail, right? And offer you the drink. I don't know what any of that means, but it's that powerful, right? The rainbow will appear and you'll find the leprechaun. It's like this crazy validation. I can't even begin to tell you. You can read it on one of my blog posts from 2 years ago, 2017, what happened to me in Mount Shasta the first time I went. It was divine encounter after divine encounter, and I can't even... It's a story for another day. But so that is Root to Heart. And if you're part of the membership portal, keep watching and you'll get the downward manifesting flow, and we'll go deeper into what's actually manifesting specifically for May. With light and love, thank you so much.
The Chakras Root to Crown Oracle deck is a tool designed to help people connect to their soul destiny. As humans, we live a birth-to-death cycle, yet as a soul, our existence is infinite. In each human life, our goal is to learn and connect to our authentic self. We seek guidance when we are repeating patterns and feel blocked from our purpose. This oracle deck breaks down a human's chakra system and uses that information as a roadmap. Each chakra contains physical, emotional, and spiritual information to navigate a clear path towards authenticity and awakening. By gathering perspective with a reading, you will gain soul-level wisdom. These insights bring depth to your spiritual journey and dissolve the blocks, unveiling your highest potential. Take the next step by selecting your layout and explore a reading today.